Hi, Ellen. So last time, I know we talked about cognitive restructuring,
Hmm.
and one of the methods for cognitive restructuring is called a dysfunctional thought record. We're going to try that out today. I have your sheet right here. You can give that a look,
Okay,
and
cool.
we're just going to work through it together. So I know last week you mentioned a kind of event that had occurred that maybe led to some negative thought patterns, and if you could just like elaborate on that this week, that's what we're going to start with.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess like I've just been having like some really negative thoughts about like my future relationships and like all of my really close friends like are in serious relationship or most of them, not all, are in serious relationships and are just like I don't know, and just like finding people and I just like have been really like scared lately about like ending up alone. And so yeah, like last weekend I had a couple friends come into town and I like had to hang out with a guy who we never like dated, but we had like a relationship of sorts for like a long time, and I like had feelings for him, but like he didn't want to date. Um and he like has a new girlfriend now.
That's always hard.
Yeah. Um yeah, so it was just like horrible and I had to like listen to him like talk about his girlfriend all weekend and like how much he likes her and like how great she is and how they might move in together.
Wow.
And yeah.
So that sounds like it must have been pretty difficult. um,
Very.
so what kinds of thoughts were going through your head when you were listening to this guy?
Well, I was literally just like, what is wrong with me? Like, why did he never like want to be in a relationship with me? Like, what does this girl have that I don't have? Why am I not good enough? Like, I just feel like I'm always like second to something or someone, like with every guy, and it was just like so like discouraging. And like my roommate was there and she was kind of like feeding into it, like asking him questions, and that made me just as sick because I was like, you're supposed to be like my friend, like advocating for me, and you're just like feeding into like this situation and like making me miserable by having to like hear about it. And I was just like, this is so unfair to me.
Okay. So that I could we have a lot to work with there. Some negative thinking. Let's look at this first column here. So, if you want to just describe briefly kind of that situation with the guy and having to hear about that, and let's talk about like what you were feeling physically.
Yeah. Um so like when it was happening, I was obviously basically, you know, when you just like start getting like hot and like just like I don't know, it was just like I felt sick and like my stomach like dropped and I was just like my chest was tight. I started getting really anxious and yeah, basically just like every physical bad feeling you could have, I had it.
Okay, so this is far more than just a distressing thought. This is something that like affects your body pretty severely. It sounds like.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So yeah, go ahead and just write that stuff down. What you just told me right there. Okay, so this next column you see here is called the automatic thoughts. So, kind of that stuff that you had already mentioned, like why am I not good enough? What's wrong with me? Like, am I missing anything? What kind of other thoughts like went through your head?
Yeah, I was just like, I mean, I was just like, I hate myself in this moment. Like, I was just like, and it was also part because I'm like, I don't want this to affect me. Like, I don't want to like be like sad and angered by this. Like, because it's like, I don't have feelings for this guy anymore, but it's just like the rejection aspect of it and like having to cope with like just like hearing how happy he is with someone else
Mm-hmm.
is like the worst part. Like, and it, yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think that you recognize that, you know, you don't really want to give your energy to this. And I feel like that means that there's like a really good capacity for change here and like a good capacity for changing that thought pattern into a more positive one.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're just going to be, you know, as harsh as you were kind of being with yourself to write down those really distorted thoughts. Like, you know, I hate myself. What's wrong with me? What does this other girl have that I don't? Like all those really harsh things that go through your head. I know it can be hard to write them down and maybe kind of a little jarring to see them
pen to paper.
Like pen to paper. But, you know, that's kind of the point of this exercise. This is the tough part. And number 2 in that automatic thought section, I know it might seem kind of silly, but how much did you believe each one of those thoughts at the time, like percentage-wise, in that moment?
I feel like in that moment, like, not good enough. I was like, I would say like 75%, like, the other, I mean, 90%, I'm like, what do other girls have that I don't have? Like, hating myself. I mean, like, it's not like I truly hate myself. It was just, like, at that moment, I was like, this sucks. And, like, I was just feeling really bad about myself in that moment. So I wouldn't say that, like, it was, like, a really high percentage. It was just, like, I don't know, like, a really bad, like, feeling in that moment.
Okay, so there's some room there of, like, knowing that not believing those things 100%. That's a good place to start. But 75 and 90, that's still pretty high. Definitely something you want to take care of. So I know you kind of talked about this already, but like if you could label the emotions that you were feeling. So you kind of talked about like your thoughts, but like not feeling good enough. What emotion does that lead you?
Yeah, I guess I started to get really anxious.
Okay.
And like I just wanted to like not be in the situation. Like, so I was just like anxious and like, I don't know, like I wasn't really sad, but I was sad a little bit, but I was more just like anxious and like angry, you know, and
like, kind of dejected.
Yeah. And just like not feeling like myself, I guess. Like, but I would say like mostly just like anxious and like annoyed.
Anxious and annoyed. Okay, so let's put those down and kind of same question as last time. If you were to put a percentage point on that, you know, what would you approximate for those?
Oh, I was like 95% anxious and like 80% annoyed.
So pretty severe.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, so the next part is kind of the hard part. We're going to attempt to adapt that negative thinking into something a little bit more positive, or at least a little bit more realistic, and kind of see how that would make you feel instead.
Okay.
So I have this sheet right here. You can give it a gander. These are just common cognitive distortions, and if you just want to look through those and identify what you think you might have been feeling, you know, if you have any questions about any of them, just let me know.
Okay. I would say that I would mostly be doing like overgeneralization, mental filter maybe, and like emotional reasoning.
Okay. Yeah. So overgeneralization, seeing a negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. Talk a little bit more about that, like how that.
Yeah. So I think it's like at that moment I was like, I am never gonna be good like I will never be good enough for anyone. And, like, I don't think that that's true, but it was just, like, I do that a lot, like, in the moment. I'm like, this is, like, gonna be bad forever. Or, like, I'm gonna feel this way forever. And just, like, overgeneralizing a small situation that, like, realistically, like, was just, like, one, like, you know, moment of my life. But it, like, I don't know. I just had the perspective that I was like, this is going to affect me forever.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good place to start. Let's go ahead and put overgeneralization in there. And let's see. The other one you talked about was mental filter. How do you feel that one fits into this situation?
Like, I think that I, like, zeroed in on, like, he's happier with someone else. And so then I was just like, I don't really, like, want to be here. Like, I don't want to be, like, engaging in this, even though it was, like, my other friends were there. And, like, overall, like, I was having a good time. But, like, that one thing, like, overshadowed the entire rest of the night. Like, even though it was, like, a fun night, it made everything bad.
Okay. All right. Yeah, then I definitely think that qualifies as a mental filter. Just kind of letting it ruin your night. That's not something that we want. And emotional reasoning. I heard this one a lot when we were talking. Kind of that I feel it, therefore it must be true. So let's look back at these automatic thoughts here and see if any of those, like, which one of those kind of, like, fits the most with the emotional reasoning, you think?
Like, my thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably, like, I'm not good enough.
Yep, that was where my mind went too. So you're already really good at this. So yeah, feeling like you're not good enough and kind of treating that as fact rather than just something that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up, we're going to kind of look at these, look at these cognitive distortions and think about, like, maybe how we could think about things differently in the future.
Mm-hmm. So
what evidence did you have for these automatic thoughts that you were having? And you can say none.
Yeah,
but...
I mean, I wouldn't say that I have any evidence that, like, justifies these thoughts. Like, there's no evidence, but I guess it was, like, it's just a feeling. It's just, like, I think rejection has, like, a really, like, staunch effect on people's, like, thoughts about themselves and...
Okay.
Self-esteem.
So maybe even, like, past rejections could be possible evidence for that. Does that sound right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, and what about evidence against those automatic thoughts?
I mean, I normally love myself. I think I'm really cool. And I think I have a lot of great qualities. And, I mean, I have, like, friends that tell me I'm awesome, and, like, I've maintained a lot of really strong friendships and, like, relationships with people that are, like, healthy and, like, functional, and, like, they're not romantic relationships, but, like, I know that, like, people love me, and I know that I'm, like, an intelligent person, and like, I have, like, great qualities, and, like, I don't know.
Yeah, those are all really great things. And something that you said really stuck out to me is, like, a lot of people tell you how awesome you are and how, like, how many good qualities you have. And I just kind of want to flip that around for a second. And, when you tell your friends, like, how much you love them, how awesome they are, how lucky, like, any guy would be to have them, like, how much do you mean that?
I mean, I mean that 100%. Like, yeah, obviously, like, I think that all of my friends are amazing and deserve literally the best ever.
Okay, so do you think when your friends are saying that to you that they're also just as genuine?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So I think maybe an adaptive response would be to remind yourself of, your good company, your friends that tell you, like, all the things that they love about you and, like, what's so awesome about you. That might be a good place to start, is, like, knowing that, they mean those things when they tell you that. So why shouldn't you believe them?
Right.
You would want your friends to believe you when you tell them good things about you. So yeah, well, I guess you can go ahead and jot that down, some short version of that.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, and the next kind of area that I want to explore is thinking about like an alternative explanation for just the event that kind of caused you to have these automatic thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, this guy that you have a history with and had feelings for, maybe still have feelings for, when he's telling you all these great things about his girlfriend and stuff, we identified that your automatic thoughts was, not being good enough, not having something that this other girl has. But what's maybe like an alternative explanation for what he's telling you about his new girlfriend? And
I think the alternative is that like we at the end of the day like weren't compatible, and like we want different things out of life and have different interests, and like he obviously connected with this girl, and like I'm happy for him, and like I obviously want the best. And I guess just like kind of reframing it, it's like it's not about me. Like it's not about me at all.
That's right.
Like it's about like he found a connection with someone else, and like it is what it is, And it's like you kind of I think that like I still like don't want to be in a situation where I have to hear him talk about his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I just would prefer to not be in that situation at all. But I think like just kind of like reframing it in my own mind and like thinking about like the consequences of being upset are greater than the consequences of just like making peace with it and like I don't know, like not making as big of a deal about it, like just in my own head.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're already so good at this. I don't even think you need the sheet, but let's go ahead and write some of those things down just so that you have it on record. So I heard you say, like it's not about me. We didn't make a connection and he made a connection with somebody else, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that anything is inherently wrong with you.
Right.
Okay, and then another place I want to go with that is, if you had a friend going through the same thing, they just ran into a guy and had to listen to him talk about his new girlfriend, what would you tell your friend in that situation?
I would say that's so horrible, and I'm sorry that you like had to experience that. But like obviously at the end of the day, you're better than he is. And like you just have to kind of like accept that and move on, and like it sucks, but sometimes we have to like sit with our emotions to be able to cope with them. And yeah, so it's like it's okay to be sad about it, but don't like dwell on it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to remember too, is that I feel like the title of this sheet is a little bit harsh, like calling it a dysfunctional thought. Like, all of this is blameless. Like, we all have these automatic thoughts that are sometimes really negative and harmful. And, it's not the fact that we have these thoughts that's the problem. It's just like how we choose to deal with them. Right. So, with your friend, if they were going through this, and they're sitting in front of you saying, what's wrong with me? Like, what kind of response would that elicit from you?
I'd say there's literally nothing wrong with you. You're amazing. You're funny. You're kind. Like, you're smart. You have everything going for you, and it's like, it's just one guy. Like, it's just some guy.
It's just one guy. I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, let's write some of those things down too. So, it's just one guy. You have everything going for you. So, okay, so now let's take a step back and look back at these automatic thoughts. We've talked about it a little bit. You know, I hate myself. Let's look at that one. What, if you were to give a percentage point, how much do you believe that right now in this moment?
0%.
0. That's awesome. Okay. What about the next one? Because I know that one didn't have as high as a percentage to start with, but feeling like you're not good enough.
I mean, I think that, like, that's kind of just, like, a lingering feeling that, like, a lot of people have, you know, just, like, generally. And it's, like, I don't, like, genuinely believe it, but there's always that. So I would say, like, I don't know, 10 or 15%. It's just, like, that's always going to be, like, I don't know always, but, like, that's going to be something I think that would be hard to, like, completely not feel ever.
I think you're totally right. That is a very common thought that a lot of people have. And 10 to 15% is a lot better than, 80%. So that's an improvement. And then what about, like, am I not good enough? How about that one?
Yeah. I mean, I am good enough, like I'm good enough to be alive.
That's right. Okay, so what emotions are you feeling now that we've kind of talked about alternative explanations and stuff?
I'm feeling better about it, and I think it was good to have, like, a different perspective on the situation and, like, understand that, like, yeah, these are, like, valid feelings, but you don't have to let a negative situation, like, totally affect the mood, like, of at that time, and, like, in general, like, you don't have to let that weigh down on you.
Okay, awesome. I know I'm asking you to label everything, okay, but if you could label those emotions, maybe what would you say?
Like my emotions right now?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like myself. I feel confident. I feel, like, generally happy.
Confident and happy. Like, I think that's a pretty good improvement on anxious and annoyed. And so what do you think you'll do in the future? Like, hopefully this kind of thing doesn't happen again, because as we talked about, it's just kind of a bad thing to experience anyway. But if you are to run into events that kind of bring about this negative thinking, what might you do instead? To get yourself to a place where you are now?
I think I'll just try to, like, rationalize the situation more and, like, think about, like, if I have those negative thoughts, like, thinking about, like, other, like, good qualities instead of bad qualities. Maybe, like, I don't know, phoning a friend to get a little pep talk.
I love that idea. I think phoning a friend is a really good idea. And kind of hearing those things that to be true deep down, that your friends would be happy to tell you. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, I think you did a great job, Ellen, with this distorted thought record. I hope that this is a good resource for you in the future.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.